Okay, good morning, everybody. This is our 55th session of wandering through the big book. It's taken us a full year to get to step 11. And just as an opinion on my part, I think step 11 is why we do everything. It's why we do everything else is to get to step 11. And yet I think I can say that it's there are a lot of people in AA that get through. They may even get to conscious contact, and they kind of stop. And you'll hear people say things like, "I did the steps," or um, that 10, 11, and 12 are maintenance steps. And I don't think anything could be further from the truth. Step 11, right away, it says improve conscious contact. It's setting out that what we're trying to get here is conscious contact. And we're trying to do that by lowering the ego's voice and trying to increase our sensitivity to our spiritual self within. And oh gosh, I haven't even read the opening words. I'm off and going. Anyway, okay, so we're going to read our opening words and then come back. This is step 11, part 1, which is what the book says. And then we got several sessions coming on stuff that's in the study guide. So I apologize. Here are our opening words. We got our readers ready. Welcome to this session of Wandering Through the Big Book. This is not a meeting of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. There's no group conscience, no seventh tradition, no requirement for membership. Everyone is welcome. Our primary purpose is taking an in-depth look at the book Alcoholics Anonymous in order to deepen and strengthen our own recovery, to try to help others to do the same, and to try to become trusted servants of our fellowship. We are seeking conscious contact by trusting God, cleaning house, and helping others. And we're trying to improve that conscious contact by practicing steps 10, 11, and 12 every day and applying the spiritual principles we are learning to the details of our ordinary day-to-day lives. We will begin this gathering with a moment of silence to reflect on why we are here. And now we've got 5 readings adapted from the big book, and Buck is going to read number 1.
Number 1, I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through. And though perhaps you came to scoff, you will remain to pray. Page 0, right before page 1.
And thank you, Buck. Jason, number 2.
Morning, Jason, alcoholic. No attitude of holier than thou, no fees to pay, no axe to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. Page 18. And be quick to see where religious people are right. Page 87.
Thanks, Jason. And Jennifer, number 3.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jennifer. I'm an alcoholic. If you are seriously alcoholic, as we were, we believe you have but 2 alternatives. One is to go on to the bitter end, blotting out of your conscience how miserable you really are, page 25. And the other is to ask our Creator each morning in meditation to show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love, page 83.
Thanks, Jennifer. And George, number 4.
Every day is the day we must carry the vision of God's will for us into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are the thoughts which must go with us constantly. This is the proper use of the will, page 85.
Thank you, George. And Anne Marie, batten cleanup, number 5.
Number 5, just to the extent I humbly rely on God and do as I think God would have me do, will I be enabled to experience spiritual serenity right in the midst of human calamity, page 68. Head in the clouds, but feet firmly on the ground, 130.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And I'm just going to mute all here. Boom. Boom. Whoops. Yeah. Okay. So I've said several times that this series we're having today is an outgrowth of a bunch of big book workshops that I have done previously. And those big book workshops, it was something. We'd go through all this material in 9 hours. And the way it was, we do 1, 2, and 3 Saturday morning. We do 4 through 9 Saturday afternoon. And we do 10, 11, and 12 on Sunday. And I just remember 1 and 2 and 3 were always good, you know. And I could see people liking it in terms of getting to know the book and stuff. 4 through 9 was always a grind, you know. It's Saturday afternoon, and it just was a grind. But we'd hit Sunday morning, and it was like, yeah, now it would start. That it was at least for me, it was far and away the most fun part of doing it. And I've tried to change these readings a couple of. We've been reading these readings, you know, for a year now, and the one that Anne Marie got, that's absolutely my favorite, because it's promising. It's in the fear inventory is where that comes from, but it's promising that if I will do these simple things, humbly rely on spiritual power, a power of infinite love and infinite intelligence. If I will humbly, and that word humbly is key, and then do what that power tells me to do, I am promised that I will experience serenity right in the midst of the calamity. You know, it's important, like the 9th step promise about financial insecurity. It doesn't say financial insecurity is going to stop. You know, I may be financially insecure the rest of my life. What it promises is that I'm not going to fear it, because I'm going to feel provided for by my Creator. That I just won't fear it. And this is so important. The calamity is not going to stop. What's going to happen is the calamity is going to take place, and I'm going to feel okay. And it's because I'm going to have a longer term point of view, which is my spirit. You know, later I was going to read this page that I think I'm going to read it now. It's page 55 of We Agnostics, and it talks about, actually, we were fooling ourselves. You know, we're living in self-delusion. We're so caught up in our own minds and the drama of our life. We're fooling ourselves by living in the calamity. For deep down in every one of us is the fundamental idea of God. And I've complained that idea is a kind of a weak word for me. If I substitute nature, it has a little more power for me, is the fundamental nature of God. I could not be here without the fundamental nature of God being part of me. I've got my body, and I've got my mind, and I've got this fundamental nature of God, body, mind, and spirit. Then it says, the problem is that I have covered over this fundamental nature of God with all of my ego's concerns. I've covered it over with calamity. That's what we were just talking about. My concern with the calamity, that, okay, God, I'll get to you, but I gotta I gotta settle the calamity down before I get to you. When I get the calamity settled down, you and me, we'll talk. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp. This is why the humble part is so important. Pomp is where aren't I wonderful? Or pomp is, for me, it's worse when I go to arrogance, because that's what I do. I arrogantly believe my own human brain. I actually believe my own human brain that it can lead me to the truth. I remember a dreadful day. I don't know, I'm 10, 11, 12 years old, sitting in my parents' church, and some guy is reading from the Bible, and my little brain starts talking to me. and it was something like this. It says to me, this is either all true or it's all bull stuff. And I'm telling you, it's bull. And I'm telling you why, because these people, they're reading this stuff, but they're not living their lives this way. They're talking the talk, but they aren't walking the walk. I don't think my little brain used those words, but basically my brain said, these people are full of it and they're hypocrites. And then it said, trust me. I'll find our way out of here. You do what I tell you to do, and we'll get to peace and joy and love. And I did. And I started drinking at 13, 14, and I stopped at 63. Can you imagine 50 years? And I think I'm a smart guy. And it was so embarrassing when my sponsor kept pointing out, you couldn't drink and fail to see this allergy thing, that you couldn't take one drink, that you couldn't stop at 3 or 4. Your brain had to make that possible. And you trusted your brain every time. When it talks about the failure of the hot stove defense, that I could do it over and over and over again, and think somehow it was going to be different. Anyway, I'm off here, but that's pomp to me. That's arrogance, believing my own thinking. And with me, it's always been worse, because, and How It Works talks about, some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas and the results were nil until we let go absolutely. What a challenging statement. How many of us can let go of our own ideas, our old ideas that have turned into dreadful habits? Let go absolutely? Are you kidding me? I think that's why the spiritual appendix is so important, because it came back and it said, well, we've used these, turn your will and your life over to the care of your creator as you understand your creator. We've talked in a lot of absolutes, and it is true. But for most all of us, this happens gradually. And all of a sudden we're looking back and we're going, wow, I didn't drink, I didn't give so-and-so the finger, I didn't, whatever it is, I reacted differently to this thing. So the humbly rely part, that's the humble part of it, is that I'm not believing my own thinking. And in my case, what's made it so hard to let go of old ideas is that I've been trying to justify my own thinking. I've been trying to prove to the world that I got good ideas and I can make a difference. And, that I can live on self-reliance. I think it's why it took me so freaking long to get here. Okay, let's see. well, anyway, that's what I was trying to say. Obscured by calamity, by pomp, or by worship of other things. I tend to other things, and that keeps me from paying attention to God. And you know what? I got this theory going that most of us don't really want to pay attention to God. It's, conscious contact, that may be one thing, but you want me talking to God all day long? What kind of life is that going to be? It's the same way with alcohol. We can't imagine life without alcohol, with it, and we can't imagine it without it. Well, I think the same is true with God. We go through this mixed thing where we can't imagine life with it. You're telling me I'm supposed to be asking God what I'm supposed to do all through the day? I think it's why focusing on step 11 and getting serious. I think a lot of us get serious about prayer because I think we recognize sooner or later that none of the change could have taken place without prayer. I think we realize that it's the essential factor in overcoming the disease of alcoholism and establishing a relationship with whatever it is that you call it. But when you get to meditation, most of us can't sit still for very long. That's just a fact. And I know a guy locally, and he has a very strong conscious contact, and he'll speak of it. His higher power is in his head all day long, and the one morning meeting he won't go to is the meditation meeting. It's just so, and I think the other part of this that happens is that service, when we do get involved in service and we feel so much better. I mean, we just plain feel so much better when we are in service. We gravitate to that. So I better get going here. I'm not gonna get through this. So this first session on step 11 is what the book says. And so I'm going to read through the book. It starts at the bottom of 85 and it's going to go to 88. And I'm hoping that my mouth doesn't motor too much, that we'll get through this morning. And then the weeks coming up, we're really going to be digging into that study guide. And it's step 11, it's 24 pages. And there's a lot of stuff in there, and I don't know that we're going to get to all of it. But and if you're not on the email list, if you put your email in the chat, if you want to participate in those ones coming up, then I can send you the link to the meeting and send you these opening words and send you the PDF of the study guide so you can print it out because it'll be easier to work your way through. But this morning's job is just trying to read these pages. So step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. Typically people call prayer when I put out my request or my problem or my situation, I put it out there to the spiritual dimension, let's say. And meditation is when I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to be receptive to something coming back. And when we realize that something is coming back, we're calling that conscious contact. And then the idea is making that enough of a priority to improve that conscious contact. There's another thing called contemplation, which is, and we talked about it when we talked about centering prayer, And I know centering prayer was in step 10, it just because, I don't know, it was there, but the beauty of centering prayer is this is a step beyond asking and listening. This is inviting the presence of God into our being to heal us. It ain't words. Centering prayer suggests we pick a word, could be heal, and or come, or love, or anything, but we use a word to symbolize our intent to allow this power to come into our deepest being and heal us. And one of the things that I'm digressing, you know what, we may not get through the book today. I just so totally love the 7-step prayer, because I think it's identical to the 3rd step prayer. And we only get, we get 3 prayers, right? We get the 3rd step prayer, the 7th step, in quotes, the 7th step prayer and the 10th step prayer. How can I best serve thee? Thy will not mine be done. It's in quotes, it's a prayer. And step 10 says, this is the only thing you're actually supposed to be thinking about all day long. What a high bar that is, huh? But the 7-step prayer, for me anyway, takes and I love to say them together, roll the 3rd step prayer right into the 7th step prayer. Hey God, it's going good here. I think I'm now willing to you get all of me. I'm not holding anything back. I pray that you now, my creator, plus I love the acknowledgement that I'm a created being and I'm trying to get back to my creator to ask for the operating manual. What you want me doing here? My creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me. And then a very, very, for me, important phrase, good and bad. It means that I have to withdraw my judgment of what's good and what's bad. I'm giving it all to you. And then the most amazing thing, you talk about healing, I pray that you now remove from me, this is relieve me of the bondage of self, remove from me every single defective character, and then boom, it doesn't say that stands in the way of my serenity. It doesn't say that. That's what I want, relieve me of the bondage of self so I can feel a little better than I do. I don't feel so great. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and to my fellows. Nothing to do with my state of mind. Nothing to do with stands in the way of me feeling good about myself. Oh, I'm suffering from low self-esteem here. And then give me the power, because lack of power, that's always the problem, lack of power, because I'm trying to do this thing on human power, body and mind stuff, and not spiritual power. So give me the power as I go out from here to do what you want me to do. We haven't even gotten off the step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. It's shy. I don't know what it means to you. To me, it means reluctant, withdrawing, kind of not willing to put myself forward there. We shouldn't be. What they're telling us is get busy. get busy on this matter of prayer. And I don't know about the better men than we are using it constantly, but it is right there. Our life on a spiritual basis means 10, 11, and 12 every day, all day long, as my only alternative to doom to an alcoholic death. Hold on 1 second here. Let's see. I don't know. There you are. Okay. So better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude. Remember page, it's the start of into action. We're trying to get a new attitude. We're trying to get a new relationship with our Creator. We're trying to discover the obstacles in our path. That's what we're trying to do. And attitude is a fundamental, and it's really going from an ego-based attitude of selfishness to a spiritual-based attitude of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love about everything all the time, no exceptions, no matter what. This ain't about sobriety. Sobriety is a requirement. And it ain't about sanity. Sanity is another requirement. This program is about getting us to serenity, and serenity is an indicator of to what degree am I living on a spiritual basis, which means to what degree am I living in relationship with my Creator. What's this proper attitude? My sponsor drilled me on this. When it says attitude, you think how it works, HOW, honest, open, willing. No self-delusion, no contempt prior to investigation, and willing to do things that your human ego does not want you to do. And the first one is, my human ego doesn't want me to admit that I'm powerless over it, and that it wants to drink. Honest, open, and willing. It says it a number of times, and it's just a beautiful way to check, how's my attitude? Am I being honest, or am I living in self-delusion? Am I listening to my ego's voice? And it's going to mislead me just as much as alcohol misled me. It works. This matter of prayer works if we have this proper attitude and we practice. I love that step 12 does not say achieve, attain, accomplish. It doesn't say any of that. It says practice. And that means I try and fail, and I try and fail, and I try and fail, and one day it's happening. I'm living in the grace of God instead of fighting the calamity. It would be easy to be vague, but we believe we can make some definite, valuable suggestions. So then we get 3 parts of step 11. First part is when we retire at night. Second part is when we wake up. Third part is as we go through the day. So this first part, when we retire, I'm not going to get into a debate of why do they start the night before. They could have started with any of it, but they start with the night before. And I have to admit that this is one of the weaker areas of my program. Later in the open discussion, I'm hoping that George is going to tell us what he's been doing, because he's got a real beautiful when we retire at night thing going on. And what's really striking to me about it, I don't know if he'd say this, but we were talking about obituary, about writing our own obituary, and how that phrase between Jack Dupree, blah, 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 comma, died yesterday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever it is, and that blah, 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 that descriptor is our primary purpose. I mean, that's what we have demonstrated to the world as our primary purpose. And I think what George is doing that's so cool is he's got in his mind this moment in the evening when he's going to be looking back on his day and what does Bill Wilson say in step 10? He talks about drawing up a balance sheet. He's looking at that, and he's decided early in the day how he wants that thing to look. So he winds up living with the end in view, which I just think is fabulous. And at any rates, but for me, I've always had a problem with sleep. I mean, it's just all my life. I've resented that I have to go to sleep. I never am glad to fall asleep. I have trouble letting go of my conscious mind. It wants to think, and when I wake up in the morning, if you said, how did you sleep? I'd probably say, I don't know. I mean, it's not like I wake up, oh, that was wonderful. It's just not. And I do believe that the value of this when we retire at night, some traditions call it putting the day to rest. That I think through the day, and if there's anything troubling me, the most important phrase in this one is, after making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. That's where I'm saying, come unto me during the night. And if you want me to, if you want to give me some corrective measures, do so, and where I could take a problem, I'm having a problem with a family member, I could say, give me some, especially if it's on my mind at the end of the day, give me some corrective measures with regard to this family member. And I may wake up with an idea of, why don't you try this? See how this goes. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day, and then and they're asking us, it's always these 4 awful things: resentful, selfish, dishonest, or frightened. It's always the same 4. They show up in the 4th column of the resentment inventory. These are the things, resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid. Do we owe somebody an amend? Of course, step 10, the step 10 protocol is you're doing it in the moment. Pray at once for removal, share with somebody, make amends if called for, turn your mind to service. That's in the moment. This is at the end of the day when we're looking it over, and maybe it's going to occur to us, I really need to set that one straight with somebody tomorrow. Have we kept something to ourselves that we should be sharing? It's like a mini step 5. And I know how many people in AA have more than, they'll have their sponsor. And maybe they have people they're sponsoring, but they also have some AA buddies. Some people call them 10th step buddies, but they're people they cultivate relationships so they know who they can talk to about something if it's troubling them. Were we kind and loving toward all? Of course not. Although George has got, well, he'll tell you, because he's setting out. He doesn't want to hit this one and say no. He wants to hit this one and say, yeah, baby. Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Of course. That's our problem. Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, what we could pack into the stream of life? You know, this is going to come up somewhere else. I'm not sure where, but I was looking at the third step promises this morning. You know, oftentimes we've talked about little formulations of the whole process. And one of those that's going to show up later is pause, ask, listen, do, you know, which is really, we're trying to get so we can pause, and the pause is step 10. The asking and listening is step 11, and the do is step 12. Well, it says that same formula several times, and one of that is right before the third step. The third step promises and the third step prayer, and it says, first of all, we got to quit playing God. That's the pause. I got to quit playing God. Now, the truth is, especially when I'm in the third step, I'm not even aware that I'm playing God. And the fruits of me playing God are all of my resentment and my fear and my remorse about my selfish conduct. Those are the biggies. That's what's in the way. I've covered over this nature of God in me with resentment and fear and remorse. So first of all, I got to quit playing God. That's the pause. Next, I've got to invite God in, and we're given different relationships. Invite God in as our director, we're the actor, as our principal, we're the agent, as our parent, we're the child, as our friend. Friend is another one that shows up earlier. Quit playing God, invite God in. And then in the third step promises, it says, do as directed. That if you will keep close to your new employer and perform his work well, not my work, his work well, I'll be given everything I need. And as part of those promises, you know, it starts off with the same thing. When we sincerely took such a position, well, that position is God's the director, I'm the actor. God is the principal, I'm the agent. God is the parent, I'm the child. When we sincerely took that attitude, honest, open, and willing, all sorts of remarkable things are going to happen. And one of the most remarkable things is we will become less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans. I guess I never found it insulting because it was just so true, but you know, this could be insulting. My little plans, you know, how I'm going to play God, and I'm going to get things to turn out the way I want them to turn out. We become less and less interested in our little plans and designs. More and more, we become interested in seeing what we can contribute to life, how I can be of service to my creator and to the people about me. As we feel this new power flow in, as we enjoy peace of mind, as we start feeling, you know what, I can face life successfully and I don't have to drink. We become aware of conscious of God's presence, and we lose our fear after that. So let's see, I'm not doing very good here on time. Back to the, you know, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, what we could pack into the stream of life, where service becomes an opportunity instead of an obligation. And then they warn us, be careful. It's just like what's coming up. Be careful. Don't drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. And why? Not only will it destroy our serenity, but it's going to make us less useful. It's going to make us less useful to God and the people about us. And then the final part, after making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. So here's one of the weirdest things about AA for me. And I think St. Paul was talking about it too. Why will I not do the things I know are good for me? You know, if I try this evening review and I sleep better and my days go better, and why do I stop? Why do I get busy? Why is it more important to watch the end of a television show than to do my evening review? Or why can't I move it up? You know, I live at night the way I drank. I go and go until I finally collapse. You know, and getting this evening, and people that make this evening review work, they do it earlier. They want to watch something, they'll do the evening review before they get to the television show. Okay, so now we're shifting into part 2, which is on awakening. So on awakening, we start thinking about the day in front of us. We consider our plans for the day. And then before we begin thinking about our plans for the day, we're trying here to get the right attitude. We ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that our thinking be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Any of you that have been divorced know how ugly it usually is. And it's an ugly word for me. And it's, I don't know what was in his thinking, but I'm just reminding you, it's an ugly word. It's saying irrevocably separated from self-pity, self-delusion, self-seeking. Those are the problems. That's the fundamental nature of the human personality, to do all those things. And it's why I have to pray for removal, and I have to ask to be shown. You know, one of the important lines that we read before every one of these meetings is the one about, my mind just went blank. Oh yeah, it's the third reading. You know, please remove my, whatever it is, my restless, irritable discontent, and show me the way. I have to ask to be shown. I don't come up with it in my intellectual mind. I just don't. So what they're saying is, you know, we'll talk later in this step, as it's an Oxford group principle, is that if you will establish the conditions, then these things can happen. This notion of establishing the conditions is an important principle that we work with. And you know, on awakening, as we're considering our plans for the day, establishing the conditions means that we're asking specifically for our thinking to be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. And then it says, under these conditions, we can employ our thinking with assurance. We can trust our own thinking. You know, I think one of the big revelations when you get into this stuff is I can't trust my own thinking. If I leave my thinking, if I don't ask God to specifically divorce my thinking from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives, that's right where my mind's going to go. You know, we read through Emmett Fox's 7 great mental ideas, and one of them was you can't just say no thinking about remorse, self-pity, or dishonesty, because that's right where your mind is going to go. You know, what you have to do is substitute something for whatever that thinking was. And the idea here is we're substituting patience, tolerance, kindness, and love for our dishonest, self-seeking, self-pitying type of thinking. So under those conditions, we can trust our own thinking. And then it says, you practice this. Not going to happen. It's not a light switch. You practice this, and our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is clear to wrong motives. That's That's the whole, for me, it's the ultimate challenge is reducing my obsession with my human agenda and trying to substitute with the question, the 11-step question, what do you want me doing here? I know what I want to be doing here. What do you want me doing here? What do you want me to learn? And where do you want me to go, and with whom am I going to learn that? Show me, tell me, guide me, as opposed to my human agenda. Well, and my human agenda is simply comfort, usually. I just want to feel good. And all my plans and designs are to try to feel better about my life, instead of asking the question, what do you want me to do? Okay, so we're still in this on awakening, and in thinking about our day, we're back to considering our plans for the day. We may face indecision. We may not be able to determine what to do. Here, we ask for an inspiration, an intuition, or a decision. So this is not figuring it out. You know, I've spent my whole life trying to figure it out. And what I figured out is I'm never going to figure it out. And that it's a waste of time. And that if I would turn my attention to my Creator, I can ask to be shown. And when that starts to work, wow, does life feel different? And this is also a shift from the intellectual mind to the intuitive mind. This is very important, I think. I've spent my life basing everything on my mind, my thinking about stuff. You know, I remember the thrill of algebra in 4th grade or 5th grade, whenever it was. You know, this idea that I could set up an unknown and figure it out. It was exciting. You know, and this is just a way different approach. Quit playing God, invite God in, do as you're directed to do. Pretty simple. If I can do it, if I will practice it. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. A decision means like a command. And I've gotten them several times, and I've talked about red light, green light. You know, red light, green light is where I'm asking for a decision. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I want to do. Red light or green light or yellow light. Give me a yes, give me a no, give me a maybe. Let's keep talking about it. We relax and take it easy. Well, you may remember this was another one of Emmett Fox's great mental laws, he called them. And if you want to see it, it's in the reader. January 24th. And I'll just read you a bit of it. Oh boy, it's small print. Let's see. In all mental working, effort defeats itself. This is just the opposite of what we find on the physical plane. And on the physical plane, the harder you work, the more you get done. But when you're on the mental plane, you can't push your mind. It's like when, you know, you're trying to remember somebody's name, and you're trying to remember their name, and it doesn't come. And then life goes on, and you get relaxed, and boom, all of a sudden the name shows up. Oh yeah, or the name of a movie or whatever it is. So this relaxed part and take it easy is really important. We don't struggle. The struggle means I'm not in the grace of God if I feel it's a struggle. And the amazing thing is, I mean, it hasn't happened often, but it's happened often enough. I know they're not lying. The day just flows. Nothing feels like a struggle. The 10-step promise, we cease fighting anyone or anything. What a promise that is. If you've been fighting with life, maybe you haven't. We are often surprised how the right answers do come after we've tried this for a while. It's right back to practice, practicing this stuff. I'm out of town. Okay, I'm just going to try to get through this next paragraph. What used to be, I'm at the top of page 87, what used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration, this stuff only happens occasionally, gradually, very important, gradually becomes a working part of the mind. And look at this, we're page 87, having just made conscious contact with God. It's not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. This is real. Are you listening, Amy? Are you still here? Maybe not. Amy likes to introduce herself as an enthusiastic alcoholic, and it's real important to know that sometimes we're not going to be inspired at all. We're going to have these flat times. In fact, there's always a lesson in the flat times. We're not going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely on it. So this is the goal, really. Pause, ask, listen, do. I'm going to stop because we're gone on too long. I'm going to gong this gong, and Buck's going to stop the recording, and then we'll have open discussion till 9:30 or so. And so I thank you all for being here, and appreciate your attention, and we'll finish it next week for sure, I promise. Okay, here we go. Thank you.